I never thought I'd be writing something like this, but I really need to get this off my chest. I'm Amelia, 28F, and I've been with Mike, 31M, for the past 4 years. Our story started at a tech conference in downtown Seattle where we were both representing our companies. I was there handling marketing for my firm, and he was presenting some software his team had developed. We kept running into each other at different sessions, and by the end of the day, we were sharing coffee and talking about everything from coding boot camps to our favorite hiking trails. Mike asked for my number, and we started dating shortly after. He was different from anyone I'd dated before, genuinely kind, incredibly smart, and always thinking about others. We moved in together after 2 years, got a cute apartment downtown, and started building our life together. Everything was perfect until it wasn't. I should probably give some background about Mike's family situation. His mom Diana, 57F, raised him as a single mother after his dad supposedly died in a car accident when Mike was 5. She never remarried and made sure Mike knew about all the sacrifices she made for him. Throughout his childhood, she would guilt him into giving her his allowance money or whatever he earned from mowing lawns or tutoring younger kids. She always had some emergency that needed to be paid for. When Mike and I first started dating, Diana seemed to like me well enough. She would invite me over for Sunday dinners and even started calling me her future daughter-in-law before we were engaged. I noticed she had expensive tastes, designer bags, new electronic gadgets, fancy furniture, but I didn't think much of it at the time. Mike mentioned she was bad with money sometimes, but I figured it wasn't my business. 6 months ago, Mike proposed during a hiking trip to Mount Rainier. It was perfect, just us, the mountains, and a beautiful sunset. We started planning our wedding for December, wanting a cozy winter ceremony. We had saved up about $60,000 together, enough for a nice wedding and a down payment on a house we were looking at in the suburbs. That's when things started getting weird with Diana. She began showing up at our apartment unannounced, always with some story about needing money. First, it was her car needing repairs, $2,000. Then her roof was leaking, $5,000. Mike helped her with these expenses from his personal savings, not our joint account. I wasn't happy about it, but I understood wanting to help family. 3 months ago, Diana came over crying. She sat us down and told us she had been diagnosed with a rare form of pancreatic cancer. She said her insurance wouldn't cover an experimental treatment that was her only hope, and it would cost $50,000. Mike was devastated. He immediately offered to help, saying we could postpone buying the house. I watched his face crumble as his mother described her symptoms and prognosis, and my heart broke for him. But something felt off. Diana couldn't remember the name of her doctor or the hospital where she was being treated. When I asked about insurance paperwork or medical bills, she said everything was too complicated to explain. She would get defensive whenever I tried to understand more about her treatment plan. I started noticing other strange things too. Diana would post on Facebook about shopping sprees right after telling us she couldn't afford her medications. She'd always had an excuse for why we couldn't accompany her to doctor's appointments. Once, she claimed to be too weak to drive, but my friend spotted her at a mall an hour later, carrying several shopping bags. I tried to talk to Mike about my concerns, but he shut down. He said I was being heartless and that his mother would never lie about cancer. He reminded me of all the sacrifices she made raising him alone. But I couldn't shake the feeling that something was very wrong. I started doing some detective work. I reached out to Mike's cousin Emma, 33F, who lives in Portland. She revealed that Diana had borrowed $15,000 from her 3 years ago, claiming she needed emergency surgery. She never paid it back and stopped taking Emma's calls. When Emma visited last Christmas, Diana acted like nothing had happened. Then I discovered something even more disturbing. Diana had recently joined a casino rewards program. I found this out because she accidentally dropped her wallet at our place, and while picking up her scattered cards, I saw the casino membership. Later that week, I drove by the casino and saw her car in the parking lot, at the same time she was supposed to be at chemotherapy. The situation exploded last week. Diana showed up at our apartment in tears, clutching some papers. She said her cancer had spread and she needed the money immediately for treatment. When I asked to see the papers, she pulled them away, saying I was being nosy and disrespectful. Then she noticed her casino rewards card had fallen out of her purse onto our coffee table. The look on her face changed completely. She turned to Mike and started crying about how I had been going through her personal belongings, trying to prove she was lying. She said no mother could watch her son marry someone so distrustful and manipulative. Then she gave Mike an ultimatum: either he calls off the wedding, or she would cut him out of her life entirely. She even clutched her chest and said the stress I was causing might kill her before the cancer did. Mike was torn apart. He suggested we postpone the wedding until things calmed down. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. All our vendors were booked, deposits paid, and invitations sent. More importantly, I couldn't believe he was considering his mother's ultimatum based on such obvious manipulation. I packed a bag and went to stay with my sister Amy, 32F. She thinks I should walk away, that this is a preview of what my life will be like if I marry into this family. My best friend Rachel, 29F, says I should gather evidence of Diana's gambling and confront Mike with proof that can't be ignored. I love Mike more than anything, but I can't marry someone who would choose his mother's obvious lies over our future together. Some of our friends think I'm being too harsh, that I should be more understanding of a single mother facing a deadly illness. Others say I'm right to be suspicious and that Mike needs to grow a spine. All our wedding plans are on hold now. Mike keeps texting me, saying he loves me and asking for time to figure things out. But I don't know what there is to figure out. Either he trusts me and stands up to his mother's manipulation, or he doesn't. I refuse to start our marriage by giving in to emotional blackmail. I don't know what to do anymore. Should I give Mike time to see the truth about his mother? Should I demand he choose between us? Or should I just walk away now before I'm legally tied to this family drama? Any advice would be appreciated. Update 1, it's been 2 weeks since my original post, and I can't believe how much has happened. First, I want to thank everyone who commented and messaged me with support and advice. You all gave me the courage to do what needed to be done. After staying at my sister Amy's place for a few days, I decided to stop crying and start investigating. Amy works as a medical billing specialist, and she said something that got me thinking. Diana's story about insurance not covering experimental treatment didn't make sense. Even experimental treatments have billing codes and documentation. That's when I started digging deeper. I called every major hospital in our area, posing as Diana's insurance representative. I had her insurance information because she'd left her card at our apartment once. Not a single hospital had any record of Diana receiving cancer treatments, or even having regular appointments in the past 6 months. The closest thing to a medical record was a routine physical she had done at a clinic 8 months ago. Then I remembered Mike mentioning that his mom had a sister in Oregon who they never talked to because of some old family drama. It took some social media searching, but I finally found Diana's sister Janet, 54F. I sent her a message explaining who I was and my concerns about Diana's behavior. Janet's response changed everything. She called me immediately, and we talked for nearly 3 hours. According to Janet, Diana had pulled similar scams before. 5 years ago, she convinced Mike's cousin Kevin to give her $30,000 for emergency heart surgery. She claimed her insurance had denied coverage and she would die without the procedure. Kevin, who had just received an inheritance from their grandfather, gave her the money. They never saw that money again, and Diana avoided family gatherings where Kevin would be present. But that wasn't all. Janet revealed that Diana had a gambling problem that started even before Mike was born. Their parents had cut Diana off financially because she kept stealing their credit cards to fund her casino trips. She had gone through 3 marriages, each ending when her husbands discovered her gambling debts and lies about money. Mike only knew about his supposed dead father, not the 2 stepfathers who had briefly been in his life when he was too young to remember. Armed with this information, I asked Mike to meet me for coffee. He agreed, and we met at a quiet cafe away from our usual spots. I could see he hadn't been sleeping well, his eyes were red and he looked exhausted. He told me Diana had been pressuring him daily to break up with me, saying her cancer was getting worse from the stress I was causing. I showed him everything I had found, screenshots of my conversations with Janet, the records showing no cancer treatments at any local hospitals, and the casino receipts I had photographed from Diana's purse. Mike sat there quietly for what felt like hours, staring at his untouched coffee. Then he started crying. He admitted that part of him had known something wasn't right. Diana had been asking for larger and larger amounts of money over the past year. She'd claimed to need it for house repairs, then show up the next week with new jewelry or expensive clothes. When he questioned her spending, she would cry about how he didn't understand how hard it was to be a single mother, how she had given up everything for him. We decided to confront Diana together. Mike texted her saying we needed to talk about her treatment plan, and we drove to her house. When we arrived, we found her perfectly healthy, lounging on a new leather couch I'd never seen before, watching TV and eating takeout Chinese food. No sign of the weakness and nausea she had been claiming were side effects of her chemotherapy. When we started asking questions about her cancer, Diana tried her usual tactics. She cried about how we were stressing her out and said she didn't want to burden Mike with all the medical details. But this time, Mike didn't back down. He asked for her doctor's name, the hospital where she was being treated, any paperwork about her diagnosis or treatment plan. That's when Janet showed up. I had texted her our plans, and she had flown in from Oregon to support us. Diana's face when she saw her sister walk through the door, I'll never forget it. She went pale, then red with anger. Janet started listing all of Diana's past scams, not just the one with Kevin, but others we hadn't known about. Diana completely lost control. She started screaming at Janet about betraying family secrets, then turned on me, calling me a gold-digging witch who had poisoned her son against her. She accused me of planning this whole thing to steal Mike away from her. In the middle of her tirade, her neighbor Susan, 60F, came over to see what all the shouting was about. Susan innocently mentioned seeing Diana at the casino just the day before, saying Diana had been there for hours and seemed to be winning big at the slot machines. Mike's face hardened. He demanded to see Diana's medical records right then and there. When she couldn't produce them, she finally broke down and admitted there was no cancer. The scene that followed was heartbreaking. Mike didn't yell or scream. He just sat there, looking at his mother like he was seeing her for the first time. Diana tried to justify herself, saying she only lied because she needed the money to pay off gambling debts. She claimed dangerous people were threatening her, and she was trying to protect Mike by not telling him the real reason she needed money. Mike walked out without saying a word. He's been staying at his friend Dave's place since then, barely talking to anyone. Diana has been on a rampage, calling and texting everyone in the family with different versions of what happened. Some relatives have blocked her, but others are still taking her side, saying we should forgive her because she's family and clearly needs help. The wedding is still on hold, and honestly, I don't know where Mike and I stand. He sent me a long text apologizing for not believing me sooner and asking for time to process everything. I understand he's been through a massive betrayal, but I'm hurt that it took this much evidence for him to believe me over his mother's obvious lies. Some of Mike's relatives are pressuring him to forgive Diana, saying she needs support to overcome her gambling addiction. They're calling me heartless for exposing her lies instead of helping her get treatment. I just don't know if I can move forward knowing this is the family I'd be marrying into. Even if Mike stands up to his mother now, will he stay strong, or will she eventually manipulate her way back into our lives? I'm taking some time to think about everything. The venue is still booked for December, but I told Mike I need to see real changes before I commit to moving forward with the wedding. Janet has offered to help us understand more about Diana's past and the patterns of manipulation she's seen over the years. For now, I'm just trying to process everything and figure out what's best for my future. Update 2. It's been a month since my last update, and everything I thought I knew about Mike's family has been turned upside down. Mike and I started couples counseling 2 weeks ago to work through everything that happened with Diana. We found a counselor who specializes in family trauma, and during our third session, something came out that changed everything. The counselor asked Mike about his earliest memories of his father's death. Mike started talking about the car accident Diana had always described, but then he stopped mid-sentence. He remembered something that didn't fit the story, a memory of his father teaching him to ride a bike when he was 7, 2 years after he had supposedly died. This memory opened a floodgate. Mike spent the next few days going through old photo albums and documents he had stored in boxes. That's when he found something shocking, a birthday card from his father dated to when Mike was 10 years old. The card had been stuffed in the back of an old album, probably hidden there by Diana. Mike confronted his mother about it, but before she could spin another lie, something incredible happened. Mike's father David, 59M, found him on Facebook. It turns out David had never died at all. Diana had taken Mike and left the state when he was 5, changing their last name from Peterson to Mitchell. David had been searching for them for decades, hiring private investigators and following every possible lead. He had finally found Mike through a professional networking site where Mike had listed his old middle school. David sent Mike all the proof, police reports from when Diana disappeared with their son, court documents showing their divorce settlement, and dozens of birthday cards and letters he had sent over the years that Diana had returned unopened. The truth was devastating. Diana hadn't been a struggling single mother at all. She had been receiving $3,000 monthly in child support and alimony payments throughout Mike's childhood. Even worse, David had set up a college fund for Mike when he was born. By the time Mike turned 18, it had grown to over $100,000. Diana had somehow managed to drain this account using forged documents. Mike had worked 2 jobs through college and taken out student loans, thinking his family couldn't afford to help him. All those years of watching his mother struggle and feeling guilty about every expense, it was all a lie. When Mike and I confronted Diana about this, she tried to paint David as an abusive monster she had fled from to protect Mike. But David had proof against these accusations too. He had a spotless record, testimonials from old neighbors and friends, and documentation of Diana's escalating gambling problems during their marriage. He even had records of the counseling sessions he had begged her to attend for her gambling addiction. The revelation about Mike's father triggered an avalanche of other discoveries. Mike's cousin Emma started digging through old financial records and found that Diana had taken out credit cards in Mike's name when he was in college. This explained the mysterious debt collection calls he used to get and why his credit score was so bad when we first met. Diana had been using his social security number since he was a teenager. Some of Diana's former friends started reaching out after hearing what had happened. We learned that she had run similar scams in other states, sometimes claiming to have cancer, other times pretending to need surgery. She would drain people's sympathy and bank accounts, then move on to new victims. She had left behind a trail of devastated friends and family members. The most heartbreaking part was finding David's letters. He had written to Mike every week for years, sending them to Diana's parents' address since it was the only one he had. The letters were beautiful, full of love, advice, and hopes for reuniting with his son. Diana's parents had been giving her the letters to pass on to Mike, but she had been destroying them instead. She had robbed Mike of his father's love for over 2 decades. Mike is understandably devastated. He's struggling to process that his whole childhood was built on lies. The mother he had put on a pedestal, who he had defended against everyone including me, had been manipulating him his entire life. The father he thought was dead had been desperately trying to reach him all along. Our December wedding is officially cancelled, not because we're breaking up, but because we've decided to have a small ceremony instead. Mike doesn't want any of his mother's side of the family there, especially since we've discovered many of them knew parts of the truth but kept quiet to keep the peace. David has been incredible through all of this. He's patient, understanding, and so eager to build a relationship with Mike. They've been talking every day, sharing stories and getting to know each other. It turns out they have so much in common, same sense of humor, same love for old sci-fi movies, even the same habit of humming while they work. Watching them connect has been the one bright spot in this whole mess. Diana hasn't taken any of this well. When she realized she couldn't manipulate the situation anymore, she started spreading vicious lies about me and David. She's telling anyone who will listen that we fabricated evidence to turn Mike against her. She even showed up at Mike's workplace, causing such a scene that security had to escort her out. I'm still processing everything too. Part of me is relieved that the truth is finally out, but another part is terrified about what Diana might do next. Mike has already talked to a lawyer about the identity theft and credit card fraud. We're also looking into getting a restraining order because of her increasingly erratic behavior. For now, we're focusing on healing and building relationships with David. He's offered to help us with a down payment on a house, the one we almost lost to Diana's fake cancer scam. After everything that's happened, Mike and I are stronger than ever. Sometimes the worst situations show you who you can really count on. Update 3. 3 months have passed since everything came to light, and I wanted to share one final update. Mike and I got married last weekend, and despite Diana's best efforts to ruin it, it was perfect. We had a small ceremony at a beautiful garden venue, surrounded only by people who truly love and support us. Both my dad and David walked me down the aisle, something David said he had dreamed about since Mike first told him about me. The ceremony was intimate, with just 50 guests instead of the original 200 we had planned. My sister Amy was my maid of honor, and Mike's newfound half-sister Jessica, 26F, David's daughter from his second marriage, was a bridesmaid. It turns out Mike not only gained a father but also a sister who shares his love for coding and bad puns. They've become incredibly close over the past few months. We had taken precautions because we knew Diana might try something. We hired security and gave them her photo. Sure enough, she showed up about an hour before the ceremony, completely drunk and carrying a manila envelope she claimed contained proof that David was lying about everything. Security stopped her at the entrance, but she started screaming about ungrateful children and family loyalty. She threw the envelope on the ground. It was empty except for some old grocery receipts. When security tried to escort her out, she grabbed one of the flower arrangements and tried to throw it at me, but ended up hitting one of the security guards instead. They had to physically remove her from the property while she screamed that I had stolen her son and ruined her life. The funny thing is, her dramatic appearance only confirmed that we'd made the right decision in cutting her out of our lives. Even the few family members who had been sympathetic to her changed their minds after seeing her behavior. Mike's Aunt Carol, who had been trying to convince us to forgive Diana, finally admitted that Diana needed professional help that we couldn't provide. Mike has been going to therapy 3 times a week to deal with the years of manipulation and lies. It's been amazing to see him process everything and grow stronger. His relationship with David has blossomed in ways neither of them expected. They go fishing every other weekend, and David has been teaching Mike all about restoring classic cars, something Mike never got to learn growing up. We went completely no contact with Diana after the wedding incident. She hasn't made it easy. She creates new social media accounts almost daily to harass us, sends emails from different addresses, and even tried to reach me at work. We've documented everything and finally got a restraining order approved last week. She's not allowed within 500 feet of us, our home, or our workplaces. The last we heard, Diana was telling everyone who would listen that I orchestrated everything to steal her son's inheritance. She claimed I hired an actor to pretend to be David and that I somehow manufactured decades of legal documents. Most people see through her lies now, but she still has a few flying monkeys who believe her version of events. David has been incredibly supportive through all of this. He helped us with the down payment for our new house, the one we almost lost to Diana's gambling addiction. We moved in last month, and he's been over almost every weekend helping us fix up the place. It's been healing for Mike to do these father-son projects that he missed out on growing up. Mike's half-sister Jessica has become like the sister I never had. She's staying with us for a few weeks while she interviews for tech jobs in our area. It's amazing to see Mike experience healthy family relationships for the first time. He said he never knew family could feel this good, this supportive, without any strings attached or manipulation. We did find out that Diana has been trying to contact David's family, presumably to dig up dirt or create more drama. David's current wife Beth, 55F, received several rambling messages from Diana accusing her of stealing David away. They've blocked her on everything, but it's clear Diana isn't done trying to cause problems. The most unexpected outcome of all this has been the healing of other family relationships. Once Diana's web of lies started unraveling, a lot of old family conflicts were resolved. Cousins who hadn't spoken in years because of Diana's manipulations are reconnecting. It's like she had poisoned the entire family tree, and now that she's gone, it's finally starting to heal. Mike and I are focusing on our future together. We're talking about starting a family of our own, and it's comforting to know our children will have at least one set of loving, stable grandparents in David and Beth. Sometimes the family you choose, or rediscover, is better than the one you're born with. We're living proof of that. To everyone who supported us through this journey, thank you. Your advice and encouragement helped us stay strong through some really dark times. We're done letting Diana's toxicity control our lives. Sometimes cutting out the poison is the only way to heal.